Can you even fathom the sheer hilarity of it? Imagine an advanced alien civilization, the mighty Drachnid Armada, strutting up to Earth's doorstep with 10,000 warships, each one as colossal as Manhattan, bursting out of hyperspace like a swarm of enraged, oversized metal wasps, buzzing with the arrogance of an easy conquest. They thought it'd be just another Tuesday, a routine day of planetary domination. Oh, how wrong they were. Instead, they got the cosmic equivalent of showing up to a party only to find the house empty, with nothing but a snarky note taped to the door. Can you believe it? Earth's entire population, over 8 billion people, had vanished into thin air, leaving the Drachnids stunned, their grand invasion plans crumbling like a house of cards. Their sensors went wild, frantically scanning for military bases, defense systems, population centers, the standard invasion checklist. But what did they find? Absolutely nothing. Life signs detected, 0. The lead ship's AI blared, its synthetic voice somehow laced with bewilderment, as if it couldn't wrap its circuits around the absurdity of it all. Correction, detecting residual heat signatures consistent with recent planetary evacuation. Can you picture Admiral Zier, the supreme commander of this fearsome fleet, blinking all 4 of his eyes in rapid succession, his exoskeleton practically quivering with shock? That's impossible, he roared, his voice echoing across the bridge. Our intelligence swore there was a thriving civilization of over 8 billion sentients just 3 solar cycles ago. A junior officer, nervously clearing their throat, or whatever bizarre equivalent Drachnids have for that, piped up, their voice trembling. Sir, we're detecting something attached to their moon. Every eye on the bridge turned to the main viewport, where a simple metallic plate came into focus, bolted to the lunar surface with all the grace of a yard sale sign. As the ship's translation matrix decoded the engraving, Admiral Zier felt his exoskeleton crack under the weight of pure stress. What did it say, you ask? Oh, just the most gloriously sassy message ever. Gone fishing. Don't wait up. P.S. Thanks for the motivation to finally perfect our evacuation tech. Better luck next time. And, as if that wasn't enough to make their mandibles drop, it came with a crude drawing of a human flipping the middle finger, a gesture the Drachnid Intelligence Corps had meticulously catalogued as decidedly unfriendly. Can you feel the sting of that burn? Sir, another officer cried, their voice shaking with panic. We're detecting active temporal signatures. They didn't just evacuate, they evacuated through time. The bridge fell deathly silent, the gravity of those words hitting like a meteor. A species that could not only sense the Drachnids' approach weeks in advance, but also casually manipulate time itself to skip town? And they had the audacity to leave a mocking note while they were at it? Oh, humanity, you absolute legends. Launch the pursuit protocols, Zier ordered, his voice barely a whisper, as if he was already bracing for the chaos to come. All ships, prepare for temporal jump. We cannot let a species with this kind of tech roam free. As the fleet readied to chase their elusive quarry through the very fabric of time, a final message flickered across their screens, sent from some untraceable somewhere, or somewhen. Catch us if you can. Just a heads up, we packed snacks. The Drachnid Armada, the pride of the galaxy's most terrifying empire, found itself in a position no one could have imagined, trolled across space-time by a species that had turned running away into a dazzling, galaxy-spanning art form. Was this a hunt, or a cosmic wild goose chase? Who could even tell anymore? Down on Earth, Scout Commander Vexel of the Xylo Reconnaissance Division was having the worst Monday of his life. His mission sounded simple: land on this creepily empty planet and figure out where 8 billion humans had disappeared to. No pressure, right? Wrong. Analysis Team Beta reporting. Crackled his comm unit, the voice on the other end sounding rattled. We found something weird. Vexel swallowed a sigh. Everything about this mission was weird, wasn't it? Define weird. He snapped, bracing for the bizarre. Sir, we're picking up radio signals, but they're coming from yesterday. Vexel's antennae twitched in disbelief. Yesterday, as in 24 planetary rotations ago? No, sir, the officer replied. Yesterday, as in literally yesterday. The temporal signature shows these broadcasts started 24 hours before we got here. It's like they left their radios on a time delay just to screw with us. Can you imagine the nerve? Humans, casually pranking an alien invasion with delayed radio signals? That's commitment on a whole new level. Reports from across the planet only got stranger, each one more baffling than the last. Team Gamma stumbled across a coffee cup, still steaming with coffee brewed last week. How in the universe was that possible? Team Epsilon found a burger joint where the burgers were somehow fresh off the grill, yet abandoned for months, as if time itself had decided to take a lunch break. But Team Alpha's discovery? Oh, that took the cake, literally. They found an actual cake in a bakery display case, showing signs of being baked 3 months ago, yet the oven was still warm, glowing with recent use. Commander, the team leader's voice quavered over the comm, barely holding back their confusion. We've located what appears to be their global defense network. Vexel's hearts leaped. Finally, something tangible. Send coordinates. I'm on my way, he barked, hope surging through him like a tidal wave. But oh, how that hope shattered when he arrived. What he found wasn't a military fortress. It was something far more unsettling. A vast network of bunkers sprawled across the planet. Facilities that should have housed millions of soldiers ready for battle. But instead of weapons or war machines, they found entertainment centers. Gaming consoles lined the walls like trophies. Libraries overflowed with books on time travel theory, sitting cheekily next to stacks of superhero comic books, and fully stocked refrigerators bore notes that read, "Help yourself." Can you believe the gall of these humans? They turned their military bunkers into recreation centers? One of Vexel's scouts asked, mandibles clicking in utter bewilderment. No, Vexel realized, a bone-chilling shiver racing down his exoskeleton. They turned their recreation centers into bunkers. Look at these construction dates. These places were built centuries ago as entertainment complexes. They only recently converted them into evacuation hubs. The implications hit like a supernova, leaving him reeling. This wasn't a panicked, last-minute escape. This was a civilization so utterly confident they could vanish that they spent their prep time crafting elaborate pranks and temporal paradoxes just to toy with their invaders. Who in the galaxy does that? In one bunker, they found a dusty video game console hooked up to an ancient CRT television, the screen flickering with a game called Space Invaders. Next to it, a handwritten note taunted, "Figured you guys might want to practice. You're gonna need it." Oh, the sheer cheek of it all. But the final straw? That came when they reached what should have been the central command center. Instead, they stepped into a massive room filled with thousands of rubber ducks, each one decked out in a tiny military uniform, arranged in perfect formation like a parody of an army. A banner overhead proclaimed, "Earth's last line of defense." Just kidding. Vexel's second-in-command approached, clutching a small electronic device, their voice trembling with unease. "Sir, we found this in the rubber duck general's possession. It's a message." The device projected a hologram of empty space, then flashed text that sent ice through Vexel's veins. If you're reading this, you're already way behind. But don't worry, we left breadcrumbs. Hope you like paradoxes. Standing there, surrounded by an army of uniformed rubber ducks, drowning in temporal anomalies and infuriating pranks, Vexel had a heart-wrenching revelation. They weren't chasing refugees. They were chasing a species that had turned evacuation into a dazzling, galaxy-spanning performance. The Drachnid military had a saying, "No prey escapes the hunt." After 3 weeks of this madness, they were ready to amend it too. No prey escapes the hunt, except those infuriatingly clever primates who keep leaving exploding glitter bombs in their wake. Can you blame them for feeling utterly defeated? Aboard the Eternal Vigilance, High Commander Nixer was teetering on the edge of despair. Another search team had failed to report back, and his lieutenant's voice was thick with barely concealed panic. "Squad 7 has disappeared, sir. Just like the others." Nixer growled, his patience fraying like a worn rope. Define disappeared. He already knew it wouldn't be good news. "Well, sir," the lieutenant stammered, pulling up footage. They followed a temporal signature through the quantum wake. And then, this happened. The video showed the squad approaching a human settlement on a distant moon. As they closed in, music blared from nowhere, something about never giving someone up or letting them down, followed by a blinding flash. The squad vanished, replaced by a hologram of humans performing a synchronized dance. "That's the third Rick roll this week, sir." An officer blurted, only to shrink under Nixer's withering glare. 3 times in 1 week. How were they falling for this over and over? The situation was spiraling into utter chaos, and Nixer's heart sank deeper with every report. Of the 50 search teams deployed, 20 had vanished without a trace. 15 had been flung to random points in spacetime. Squad 4 was apparently stuck in something called the 1980s, whatever that meant, and the rest were teetering on the brink of mental collapse, their morale shattered. "Sir," a communications officer shouted, desperation in their tone. "We're receiving a transmission from Squad 12. The holographic display flickered, revealing a squad leader who looked like they'd seen the end of the universe. "Hi, Commander," they croaked, their voice breaking. "We tracked them to the Horsehead Nebula, but, speak, soldier." Nixer snapped, his patience gone. "They left a restaurant, sir. A fully functioning restaurant in space, with a sign saying, 'Free lunch for all pursuing forces.' We know you must be hungry by now." The squad leader's voice cracked with emotion. "The food was delicious, sir, and they left a tip jar." Nixer felt a headache clawing at his skull, a throbbing reminder of his humiliation. "A tip jar?" he repeated, incredulous. "Yes, sir. Labeled tips for better invasion strategies." It was stuffed with notes, most of them saying "get good," whatever that means. The bridge fell silent. The mighty Drachnid military reduced to chasing shadows, eating free lunches, and collecting snarky notes. How had their glorious empire fallen so low? "Sir," his strategic advisor ventured cautiously, their voice soft with trepidation, "there's a pattern to their movements. They're not just running, they're sightseeing. Every location they've led us to is listed in something called Lonely Planet's Guide to the Galaxy. They're treating this like a vacation." A vacation? An entire species treating an alien invasion like a galactic road trip? The sheer nerve of it was almost admirable, but it broke Nixer's heart to think his proud fleet was being played like fools. Before he could process the indignity, alarms blared, jarring his nerves. Multiple temporal signatures detected, someone yelled, their voice frantic. "They're everywhere." The main screen erupted with hundreds of temporal trails zigzagging through space like a child's wild crayon scribbles, each one leading to a different galactic tourist hotspot, complete with infuriating signs reading, "Humans went that away." Maybe. Nixer watched, his heart heavy with defeat, as his once mighty fleet scattered in every direction, each ship convinced they'd found the real trail. Deep down, he felt a pang of sorrow, suspecting a group of humans was out there, munching popcorn and plotting their next gut-wrenching prank. Would they ever catch these elusive tricksters? Or were they doomed to chase them through eternity, forever outwitted by humanity's infuriating brilliance? Can you even imagine the chaos that erupted when alarms blared across the Drachnid flagship, shattering the tense silence like a cosmic firecracker? Multiple temporal signatures detected, someone shouted, their voice thick with panic. "They're everywhere." The main screen exploded with hundreds of temporal trails zigzagging through space, looking like a child's wild crayon scribbles, each one tauntingly leading to a different galactic tourist hotspot. And there, at every destination, were those infuriating signs, arrows pointing in every direction, labeled, "Humans went that away." Maybe. Can you believe the audacity? High Commander Nixer stood frozen, his heart sinking as he watched his once mighty hunting fleet scatter like startled birds, each ship blindly chasing what they thought was the real trail. Deep in his gut, he felt a gnawing dread. Somewhere, somehow, a group of humans was probably lounging, munching popcorn, and gleefully jotting down ideas for their next maddening prank. Were they laughing at his fleet's futility? Oh, the humiliation stung like 1,000 needles. "Sir," his lieutenant ventured, voice trembling with uncertainty, Should we keep pursuing them?" Nixer's eyes locked onto the tactical display, where a new message had just flickered into existence, dripping with smugness. "Having fun yet? We've got another few hundred light years of this planned. Pack a lunch." Can you feel the weight of that moment? For the first time in his storied military career, Nixer's resolve wavered, his heart heavy with doubt. Was some prey truly worth this relentless headache? The greatest military force in the known galaxy, the pride of the Drachnid Empire, was being dismantled, not by lasers or warships, but by fluorescent yellow post-it notes plastered across abandoned human outposts. each one bearing increasingly cheeky messages that mocked their every move. How had it come to this? The shame was almost too much to bear, yet Nixer couldn't look away from the screen, his pride warring with his growing despair. Meanwhile, aboard the dreadnought Inevitable Victory, a name that grew more bitterly ironic with every passing cycle, Fleet Marshal Kor stood in the war room, his scales bristling with frustration. The holographic display before him showed their search vessels scattered across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, each chasing what they believed was the human trail. "Report," he growled, his voice a low rumble of barely contained rage. His intelligence chief, antennae drooping in defeat, replied, "We've lost contact with teams 6 through 13, sir." Kor's scales flickered with irritation, his patience wearing thin. The last transmission from Team 8 was unusual. Define unusual. Kor snapped, his claws twitching with anticipation of yet another absurdity. The chief hesitated, glancing at his notes as if hoping they'd change. They found what appeared to be a human mining colony on asteroid BX 789, but when they entered the main facility, they found, he paused, his voice faltering, a fully automated ice cream parlor with 31 flavors. And now they're gone. Disappeared, but they sent one last image before vanishing. The chief projected a hologram, and Kor's heart sank. There it was, an empty ice cream parlor, scoops of every color sitting untouched, with a banner overhead that read, "Brain freeze is temporary. Embarrassment is forever." Can you imagine the fury that surged through Kor? His claws dug into his command console, splintering the surface as he grappled with the reality that, in just 3 weeks, they'd lost more troops to human practical jokes than in the last 3 wars combined. Not lost to death, mind you, but lost to bizarre, inexplicable vanishings, only to reappear days later in situations so ridiculous they defied belief. Team 3 had materialized in the middle of their own command center, but 2 weeks younger than when they'd left, their memories wiped clean and wearing garish t-shirts from human vacation spots, Hawaiian prints, and slogans like, "I survived the Grand Canyon." Team 5 was found orbiting a gas giant, each member sealed in perfectly safe but utterly humiliating inflatable rubber suits shaped like, get this, rubber ducks. How could a species turn an invasion into a cosmic comedy show? The indignity was unbearable, and Kor's blood boiled with every new report. "Sir," his tactical officer broke in, voice hesitant, "we've detected a new transmission. It's, well..." The main screen lit up with a message made entirely of animated human emoji characters, their winking faces and thumbs-ups practically screaming mockery. "Having fun yet? Here's a hint. You passed us 4 times already. Those gas giant rings you keep scanning? Try looking between them next time. Or don't. We're taking bets on how long this'll take you." Kor's vision blurred with rage, but beneath it, a deeper wound festered. It wasn't just the humiliation that cut him. It was the dawning realization that the humans were treating the galaxy's most feared military force like a source of entertainment, a game to be played for their amusement. Were they nothing more than pawns in humanity's twisted galactic prank? The thought was soul-crushing, yet the messages kept coming, each one a fresh stab to his pride. Marshal, his second-in-command, approached, clutching a tablet, their eyes wide with unease. "We've analyzed the pattern of disappearances. There's a correlation." "Explain," Kor demanded, desperate for any shred of clarity. Every team that's vanished had one thing in common. They all stopped to read something the humans left behind. Signs, notes, graffiti. Kor's heart skipped a beat. "Are you suggesting," he said slowly, his voice trembling with a mix of fury and disbelief, "that the greatest military force in the galaxy is being defeated by our own curiosity?" Before anyone could respond, a new message flashed across the screen, as if the humans were listening in. "Ding, ding, ding. Give the Marshal a prize. Speaking of prizes, check your cargo hold." The bridge fell silent, every officer frozen in a mix of dread and anticipation. Could this be another trap? After a tense moment, Kor ordered a scan of the cargo hold, his voice barely steady. What they found defied all logic. Thousands of small metallic trophies, each engraved with Participant Award, Annual Galactic Hide-and-Seek Championship. And the final blow? Each trophy, when touched, played a tiny musical snippet, the same 6 notes, over and over. identified by the ship's cultural database as the opening of something called Never Going to Give You Up. Can you feel the crushing weight of that moment? Kor stood there, surrounded by those taunting trophies, watching his elite forces scatter across space, outwitted by an enemy that treated pursuit like a party game. In his heart, he had to admit the painful truth. Humans hadn't just broken the rules of warfare. They'd rewritten them as a cosmic game show, and the Drachnids were the unwilling contestants. In a research station far from the chaos, Grand Scientist Inar stared at her genetic analysis results for the 47th time, her tentacles writhing in agitation as she prayed they'd somehow make sense. They didn't. "This can't be right," she muttered, her voice trembling with a mix of awe and fear. "Run it again." Her assistant, exhausted from 46 prior runs, simply pointed at the holographic display, their expression grim. "The results are consistent, Doctor. Every sample we've collected shows the same pattern. These samples, shed skin cells, hair strands, even half-eaten sandwiches left in temporal stasis fields labeled free lunch. Totally not a trap. Told an extraordinary story that turned Inar's world upside down. Humans, it seemed, had a habit of leaving perfectly good food lying around, each piece a clue to their unfathomable brilliance. But this would mean, Inar's voice trailed off, her color spots paling as the implication sank in. "Yes, Doctor," her assistant said gravely. "The humans didn't just recently develop time travel technology. They've been evolving alongside it for at least 10,000 years. Can you grasp the enormity of that revelation?" The genetic structure glowing before them was unlike anything in the galaxy. DNA that didn't just encode biology, but held temporal markers, quantum entanglement points, and naturally occurring time loop stabilizers. "They're not running from us," Inar whispered, her heart's pounding with dread. "They've been preparing for this moment for millennia. Every generation has been subtly altered, their very cells adapted to exist in multiple time streams simultaneously." The realization was both breathtaking and terrifying, a testament to humanity's relentless ingenuity. A junior researcher burst into the lab, waving a data pad like a flag of surrender. "Doctor, we've decoded more of their historical records. You need to see this." The display shifted, revealing centuries of human entertainment media. Movies about time travel, books on temporal paradoxes, games teaching children quantum mechanics. What they dismissed as fiction was actually a civilization-wide training program. The researcher exclaimed, pointing excitedly. "Look at these movies. Back to the Future, Doctor Who, Groundhog Day. They weren't entertainment. They were instruction manuals." Inar's tentacles curled in shock, her mind reeling as the truth hit her like a tidal wave. Earth's silence wasn't a retreat, it was a graduation. Humanity had spent thousands of years preparing for this exact scenario, using pop culture to teach temporal mechanics to their children, treating time itself as just another playground to explore and manipulate. Could any species be more audacious? "There's more," her assistant added, their voice grim. "We found this in their genetic code." They highlighted a sequence repeating throughout the genome, and Inar's translation implant struggled to process it before displaying a message hidden in the base pairs. "If you're reading this, you're about 10,000 years too late. Thanks for the motivation, though. Nothing like a little future invasion to inspire some creative evolution." The message was signed with a genetic sequence that, when expressed, formed a protein shaped like a thumbs up. A thumbs up. The sheer cheek of it left Inar breathless, her admiration warring with her horror. Just then, alarms blared through the research station, jolting everyone to attention. "Multiple temporal signatures detected," the AI announced, its tone urgent. "Warning, causality breach imminent." The main screen lit up with hundreds of readings. Humans, thousands of them, but not from one time. The same humans, from different points in their own timelines, were converging on their location. "They're not running away," Inar whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of terror and awe. "They're running circles around us, literally through time." A new message appeared on their screens, booming through the temporal equivalent of a megaphone. "Pop quiz. What do you get when you combine a species that evolved alongside time travel? 10,000 years of quantum physics lectures disguised as pop culture, a really refined sense of humor, and just enough warning of an invasion to turn it into a teaching moment?" Answer. What's happening right now? Don't worry, we left some temporal physics textbooks in your cargo hold. Chapter 7 explains exactly how we're doing this. Good luck with the homework. Can you feel the weight of that moment? Inar stood there, her lab buzzing with evidence of a species that had turned time travel into a hereditary trait, their invasion defense into the galaxy's most elaborate prank. Her heart swelled with reluctant admiration, even as it ached with the realization that they were hopelessly outmatched. Humanity wasn't just winning. They were rewriting the rules of the game, and the Drachnids could only watch in stunned, heartbroken awe. Can you even imagine the sheer absurdity of it all? Every piece of equipment in Grand Scientist Inar's lab suddenly burst into life, blaring different time periods of the same song. Never going to give you up, in a surreal, overlapping harmony that human musicians would have called a temporal masterpiece. Standing there, surrounded by holographic displays and whirring machines, Inar's tentacles quivered with a mix of awe and exasperation. How could a species turn temporal physics into a hereditary trait and transform an invasion defense into the galaxy's most elaborate practical joke? The humans hadn't just prepared for this moment. They'd evolved over millennia specifically to make it a cosmic teaching moment. Their thoroughness was breathtaking, and Inar's heart swelled with reluctant admiration, even as her mind reeled at the audacity. Were they geniuses or mad pranksters? Maybe both. A final message flickered across her screen, dripping with cheeky confidence. Don't feel bad. We've had literally all of time to practice this. Also, you might want to step 2 feet to the left in about 3 seconds. Inar's instincts kicked in, and she shuffled aside without a second thought. A moment later, a sandwich materialized exactly where she'd been standing, perfectly toasted and wrapped in a napkin with a note. Told you those weren't traps. Just really well-timed lunch delivery. Can you believe the nerve? A sandwich delivered with pinpoint temporal precision, as if to say, we're not just outsmarting you, we're feeding you, too. Inar clutched the note, her color spots flickering between amusement and frustration. How could humans be so infuriatingly clever? Her lab, once a bastion of serious science, now felt like the stage for humanity's interstellar comedy show, and she was an unwitting player in their game. Far from the lab, the retreat of the mighty Drachnid armada should have been a grand spectacle. 10,000 warships moving in perfect formation, a testament to their fearsome power. But oh, how ridiculous it was instead. High Admiral Rexer watched in horror, his mandibles clenched, as his meticulously planned withdrawal dissolved into utter chaos. "Report," he bellowed, his voice thick with dread. "Why are we seeing 3 versions of the Centaur system?" His navigator, voice cracking under the strain, stammered, "Sir, it appears the humans have, well, they've been redecorating." "Redecorating space?" Rexer roared, his heart's pounding with disbelief. "Yes, sir," the navigator replied, barely holding it together. "They've created temporal mirrors. Every route we take shows us reflections of systems from different time periods. We can't tell which one's real. Can you picture the pandemonium? Space itself had turned against them, twisted by human ingenuity into a funhouse of temporal illusions." Rexer's pride, once ironclad, crumbled as he realized they were no longer hunters but prey in humanity's cosmic prank. The situation spiraled into madness. The Third Fleet, desperate to escape, attempted a light-speed jump, only to find themselves trapped in a soul-crushing time loop of their own engine startup sequence. Over and over, they neared faster than light speed, only to snap back to the beginning, a cheerful human voice announcing, "False start. 5-second penalty." Can you feel their frustration? The Seventh Fleet fared even worse, successfully jumping to light speed only to emerge in what their sensors swore was the same spot, but with the stars rearranged into what human star charts gleefully labeled "connect the dots" puzzles. Rexer's claws dug into his console, his fury warring with a growing sense of despair. How could a species toy with the fabric of reality so effortlessly? The humans weren't just winning. They were rewriting the rules of the universe, and the Drachnids were floundering in their wake. "Sir," the sensor officer shouted, voice shrill with panic, "we're detecting multiple human signatures. They're everywhere." And oh, they were. Humans began appearing across every system, not in ships, but just there, strolling through the vacuum of space as casually as one might wander through a park. Some were having picnics on asteroids, sipping lemonade under temporal umbrellas. Others surfed solar winds with gleeful abandon. A group floated past Rexur's flagship, waving cheerfully, their vintage space suits, relics of Earth's early space age, glinting with modern temporal stabilizers and quantum field generators. One held up a sign, "Don't mind us. Just enjoying the show." Rexur's blood boiled, but his heart ached with the weight of their nonchalance. How are they surviving in space without ships? Someone demanded, voice cracking with disbelief. A text message popped up on their screens, dripping with smugness. "Oh, that's from Chapter 12 of Evolution. Turns out, if you spend enough generations messing with time, space becomes more of a suggestion than a rule. Pretty neat, right?" Attached was a doctoral thesis titled Quantum Biology and You, a 10-year guide to becoming one with spacetime. Can you grasp the audacity? Humans weren't just defying physics, they were rewriting it, and they had the gall to share the manual. Fleet after fleet reported similar absurdities, each one a fresh wound to Rexur's pride. The Ninth Fleet found their ships transformed into what humans called snow globes, perfect miniature versions of themselves, suspended in temporal fields, their crews unharmed but dusted with glitter that sparkled mockingly. The 12th Fleet was trapped in a giant game of temporal Pac-Man, their warships reduced to ghostly pawns in a cosmic arcade, chased by grinning human avatars. "Sir," the communications officer called, voice trembling. "We're receiving a transmission from the humans. They say they'll let us leave, but there's a catch. They've organized a farewell parade, and we have to participate." Rexur's heart sank. A parade? The mighty Drachnid Armada, escorted out of human space by beings who'd evolved beyond the need for ships, in a formation that spelled out, "Thanks for playing," when viewed from the fourth dimension. The humiliation was unbearable, yet they had no choice. As they fled, a final message appeared in every ship's database. "Hey, this was fun. We've upgraded your historical records to include this event. Fair warning, we did it backwards through time, so you'll find stories about us have always been there. Check your ancient myths about trickster gods. You might recognize some familiar pranks. P.S. We've enrolled your entire species in our correspondence course, Time Travel for Beginners. First homework due last Tuesday." The last thing they saw before jumping to hyperspace was a human child floating in space, licking a temporally stabilized ice cream cone and flashing a cheerful thumbs up. Can you feel the sting of that final taunt? Rexur's soul ached with the weight of defeat, but deep down, a flicker of awe sparked for humanity's relentless creativity. The galaxy had changed, not physically, except for that one spiral arm now spelling humans were here when viewed from just the right angle. But in every other way, it was unrecognizable. The Galactic Council's emergency session had dragged on for 3 exhausting weeks, mostly because no one could agree on what time it was anymore. Humans had left an indelible mark on the galaxy's collective psyche, wielding weaponized confusion and industrialized whimsy like no species before. Supreme Chancellor Zavon stood at the podium, his voice strained as he tried to maintain order. "Please, everyone. We must reach a consensus on how to handle the human situation." "Handle?" The Proximan delegate cackled hysterically, tears streaming down their face. "Yesterday, I found a human having tea on one of my planet's moons. When I asked how they got there, they said they'd always been there and handed me a history book proving it, from our own archives." The Centurion representative raised all 4 hands, their voice trembling. "Our entire species has developed a nervous tic. Every time someone says human, we look over both shoulders in all timelines. Can you imagine the paranoia gripping these once proud leaders?" Humanity's pranks had turned the galaxy into a jittery mess, and Zavon's heart ached for the order they'd lost. Reports flooded in, each more bewildering than the last. The Drachnid Empire, once the galaxy's most feared force, had converted their war colleges into temporal physics academies. Their new doctrine centered on preemptive surrender to humans and advanced running-away techniques. Can you believe they'd fallen so far? The Relian Trading Consortium reported their markets swamped with human tourism packages. Visit Earth. It's always/never there became the highest-grossing vacation package in history, despite no one knowing if the tours went anywhere or when they happened. We've analyzed their influence on galactic culture, the Cultural Affairs Minister declared, voice heavy with disbelief. Somehow, they've retroactively inserted themselves into every species' mythology. Every civilization now has ancient legends of time-traveling tricksters leaving bizarre gifts and terrible puns across history. A junior aide rushed in, breathless, with more reports. Species across the galaxy found human artifacts in their oldest archaeological sites. Perfectly preserved smartphones playing cat videos, coffee mugs emblazoned with "World's Best Alien," and temporal physics manuals scribbled in crayon. The Arcturus delegation discovered their first contact protocol had always included a section titled, "If you meet humans, just don't trust us." No one recalled adding it, but carbon dating proved it was millennia old. How had humans woven themselves so deeply into the galaxy's past? Perhaps, one brave delegate ventured, voice quaking, "We should try diplomatic relations?" The chamber fell silent, every leader holding their breath. Then, on every desk, a cup of coffee materialized, each with a note. "Already did. Check your records for the Treaty of next Thursday, signed 2 centuries ago next week." The humans had done it again, turning the galaxy into their straight man, every species living with the constant awareness that somewhere, somewhen, a human was watching, plotting the next reality-bending joke. Could they ever escape humanity's playful grasp? The council passed one resolution: just let them do their thing. It's easier that way. As the session ended, Zavon found a sticky note on his podium. "Great meeting. Loved the resolution. We've updated the galaxy's tourist guide. Earth's now Schrodinger's planet, the best party in the galaxy and completely uninhabited. Drop by sometime. Time's flexible." Signed, Humanity, proud winners of the galaxy's hide-and-seek championship. All categories, all times, past/present/future. Zavon's heart fluttered with a mix of exhaustion and odd comfort. The galaxy had adapted to a new reality, where every species knew humanity was out there, watching, waiting, and planning the universe's most elaborate prank. Most found it strangely reassuring, like having a powerful, slightly unhinged, but good-natured cosmic neighbor who lived for their bits. After all, any species that evolved for 10,000 years just to turn an invasion into an intergalactic comedy show couldn't be all bad, right? Just wonderfully, gloriously weird.